Okay, the mind training in 7 points is, as its title says, is divided in 7 parts. Since this teaching day is just one day, I'll try to keep it simple. I will give you the names of all 7 points and talk about 3 of them in detail. This way you can have a basis for studying this text. The 7 points are these. Point number 1 is the preliminaries which teach the support for Dharma. The second one is the actual practice, which is training in bodhichita. The third is the transformation of adverse conditions into the path of awakening. The fourth point is how to use the practice in one's entire life. The fifth is measuring your proficiency in mind training. The sixth is the commitments of mind training. The seventh is the guideline for mind training. This 7th point is how to maintain mind training and prevent it from weakening. So we've actually covered most of point 1. In my opening remarks, I spoke about the 4 Noble Truths and the 4 thoughts that turn the mind toward the Dharma. These are all preliminary. If we understand the 4 Noble Truths and we contemplate the 4 thoughts, we have a good foundation for our practice of the Dharma. Because if we don't understand the 4 Noble Truths, we won't understand our suffering. If we understand suffering, its cause, its ending, and the path, then we have all of the basis. And then if we contemplate the 4 thoughts, we will have the intention to leave samsara behind. So the preliminaries have 2 parts. One is these general preliminaries, such as the 4 thoughts. But there's a second preliminary, which is the preliminary for a period of meditation on mind training. For example, when we start practice, we generally start with refuge recitation. And so, of course, when you're practicing mind training meditation, you would start the same way. But in this particular commentary, there is also a second practice that's taught. The mind training slogan says, first, practice the preliminaries. And then this text that I am working from was written in the 19th century by Jamgon Khantrul Lodro Tai. And in English, the title is The Great Path of Awakening. Jamgon Khantrul explains the preliminary as devotion to the Guru. He says that when you sit down for meditation after you have recited your preliminary prayers, you imagine that your root guru is above your head on a lotus flower. He's sitting on a lotus and a moon seat. You can see him as Vajradhara, made of light and shining, not solid. And then you think and pray, may, Holy Guru, please grant your blessing that love, compassion, and bodhichita arise in my mind. And then after you've prayed this several times, Jamgon Khantrul says that the Guru then dissolves into light and merges with you through the top of your head. And then it descends into your heart and sits on in a shell of light. And in this way we receive a blessing from the Guru. And this helps us to practice because it allows us to practice without thinking, I'm not worthy, I can't do this. And this way, through the blessing of the Guru, we feel ready and open to practice. And so Jamgon Khantrul says that when you're practicing mind training, it's good to begin like this. Then if you have time to contemplate at least one of the 4 thoughts, that's wonderful. Otherwise, you can think of them just a little bit and then move on. That's the first point. So we talked about that already. Now the second point is it's called the actual practice training in bodhichita. Maybe you already are familiar with this term, but I'll give a brief explanation. A bodhi means awakening, of the awakening of Buddhahood. Chitta means the mind of. So it's the mind of awakening. And sometimes I call it the mind that wants to wake up, the mind that no longer wants to be asleep in samsara. And there are two types of bodhicitta. Whenever I think of this, I think of being on an airplane. There are two exits over the wings. Please remain seated. Anyway, there are two types of bodhicitta. There is ultimate bodhicitta and relative bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta is an understanding of wisdom and limitlessness or emptiness. And relative bodhicitta is the practice of love and compassion. Bodhicitta is also explained in two other ways. There's the bodhicitta that is aspiration and the bodhicitta that is action. Aspiration bodhicitta is the wish to be of benefit to all sentient beings and the wish to attain enlightenment for their benefit. Action bodhicitta is the action by which the aspiration is achieved. First we have the aspiration, then we have the action. And the action bodhicitta is usually explained as the 6 perfections: generosity and ethics, then patience and diligence, meditation and wisdom. Those are the 6 perfections. So it begins, the practice of bodhicitta begins with intention. This cannot be understated because everything that we do begins with an intention. Whether it's getting up in the morning or making a cup of tea or completing a difficult conversation. Sorry. Oh, obviously Brazilian.
Yeah, but I hate coffee. No explanation for that.
Yeah, no explanation. That's good. All of it begins with intention. So it stands to reason that you must have an intention to be of benefit to others. This is actually the magic of bodhicitta. We might think, oh, well, surely the 6 perfections are the most important. But how can you practice generosity without the intention to wish to benefit others? How can you practice ethics without the wish to benefit others? And so if you don't have those early perfections, you can't have the later ones, such as wisdom. So you must begin with the intention to benefit others. It's really easy to practice this. Human beings love repetition. Anyone who has ever seen a 3-year-old child watch the same video over and over and over again knows how this works. Human beings love repetition. We do the same things, we eat the same foods, we go to the same places, and we develop habits this way. In Tibetan, the word is bakchak, B-A-K-C-H-A-K, bakchak. It's a habit. And so that's all we're doing in this lifetime, by the way. We're making bakchak for our future life. I hope this makes you think about it, because that means that what you do a lot, you do a lot. So if you like to practice the Dharma and you do practice the Dharma, this is very good. But if you prefer not to practice the Dharma, then that's what you'll get. So having the intention is important. I always tell people, even if you can't practice, always have the intention to practice. Never give up the intention to practice. Because if your mind is never far from the Dharma, you will never be far from the Dharma. So when you go by your meditation cushion every day, look at it with longing. Think, I want to be with you. I long to be with you for a longer time. I want to benefit beings with your help, and things like that. So the intention then is that we are trying to train in. The intention we are trying to train in is the intention to be of benefit to beings with every thought, word, and action. It sounds silly, but you can actually walk around and think like this. Sometimes when you're walking down the street, people look at you funny. You might feel a little uncomfortable with how they look at you. But if you remember this intention, you'll say, may whatever you see be the Buddha. May you benefit even from just looking at me funny. And Shantideva says this in his book. He says, if a person who sees me has a thought of anger or a thought of devotion, may both of those be of benefit to that person. So really, you can benefit beings seriously you can benefit beings just by thinking like this. Holding this intention flavors all of your expression. It permeates your being. And people receive that when they look at you. If you sincerely wish to benefit beings from your heart, they will know that. They may not like it, but they will know it. And you will then actually benefit beings just by your intention. According to the teachings of Khenpo Kartha Rinpoche, when you wake up in the morning, you can think, may everything I do today be of benefit to beings in some way. And may we all become Buddhas. If we can begin the day like this, then this permeates our intention through everything we do. And then when we go to sleep at night, we can think, wherever I go in my dreams tonight, may I benefit beings there. And may we all become Buddhas. And that way, in the day and the night, we're practicing the aspiration bodhichita. With this intention, even mundane activities become dharma. Washing the dishes. Then taking the children to school. Going to the movies. Going to the beach. It really, if you think like this all the time, may I benefit beings with every thought, word, and action, that slowly is what happens. So this is a little bit about bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta. Aspiration bodhicitta and action bodhicitta. Now, in the text, the slogans first teach, as the actual practice, meditation on ultimate bodhicitta. Even though ultimate bodhicitta is difficult to understand, it's still taught first. And this is because it's ultimate. It's the ultimate view. But in his commentary, Jamgon Khantrul says, even though it is not easy to understand, don't worry. Because if you practice love and compassion, that is relative bodhicitta, then ultimate bodhicitta will slowly become realized naturally. So I like to tell people this so they don't worry if the concepts are too complicated. Because really, love and compassion will achieve the same result. The slogans for ultimate bodhicitta begin with the one that says, regard all phenomena as being like a dream. And so this is an instruction on how to contemplate phenomena. And so there are 5 slogans in this section. The first 4 are a description of how to contemplate ultimate bodhicitta. And the last one is what to do after the session of meditation. So if we take these 4 slogans one by one, you can see how it describes a gradual meditation or contemplation meditation together on emptiness. Regard all phenomena as being dreamlike is just what we were talking about earlier. We entertain in our minds the idea that all things are mental experience. Like this room. Remember earlier we were talking about this room? Yeah? The room here and the room in a dream are really very similar. It's only ever in the mind. Our experience, that is. So if we contemplate that, we might get a sense of things being dreamlike. That regards the external world. Second slogan says, then examine the nature of awareness. And it actually says, it says unborn awareness. This means examine the mind that's experiencing. We've already seen that the world is not what we think it is. Then what about the mind that's experiencing that? We think, is it solid? Is it real? Does the mind have a permanent quality, color, shape, beginning, end? And then we'll get to the place where we say, no, mind does not have any of these permanent, solid qualities. And then this takes us to the third step in this meditation. The slogan says, even the remedy is let go. The remedy being the contemplation itself. The idea is that the first stage of the contemplation is to contemplate the external world, and the second, the internal mind. When we have a sense of the emptiness of both, we stop thinking. We just let go and relax. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Fourth slogan then says, rest in the nature of everything. And what he's meaning here is the nature of mind and phenomena as being emptiness. This will only last for a short time. Because you might think, am I still meditating? Or you might think, am I doing this right? So that means the rest has ended. And don't feel bad, it's very short to begin with. It's about gradual understanding. So this is how this type of meditation is done. But it's not very easy. When I tried to do this, I got really confused. When I first started practicing this maybe 20 years ago, I was really confused. I said to Khenpo Rinpoche, are my thoughts or are they somebody else's thoughts? He said, I think you need to stop doing this meditation. I said, fine. And he said, emphasize compassion meditation instead. I did, and it worked really well for me. This leads us to the fifth slogan. In post-meditation practice, be like a child of illusion. Now, this means that after you get up from your meditation and are walking around in your daily life, you think, this is just like a dream. This is actually not as silly as it sounds. Everybody's had a bad day. You know, the kind of day where everything goes wrong. You miss the bus, you're late for your appointment, somebody is impatient with you because you're late, and then you drop all the things out of your pockets on the floor, and you kick things underneath the table. It's very easy at that point to say, wow, this is just like a bad dream. I've actually done this a lot, because otherwise you believe the story that your mind is telling you about what's happening. Self-clinging is always weaving a story. Like, my life is wonderful because I have everything I want. Or, my life is terrible because I have nothing that I want. Yeah. Always there's a story. And the story is really just made of thoughts that we have had so many times that we think it's real. But it's really just a story. You know this when you sit in meditation. When you sit in meditation, a story comes up to you, like, this is happening, something is happening. And then the technique of meditation is to touch it and let it go. And then return your attention to the breath. This simple technique, touch, let go, and return, is the key to shamatha meditation. It shows you that thoughts are nothing in themselves. Because when you touch that thought and let it go, it disappears. Every now and then you have what I call a big, ugly, hairy thought. Like something bad that had happened in the past. And sometimes these stories take a hold of us. But in meditation, if we touch them and let them go, even the biggest, hairiest thought disappears. And that tells us something very important. That if we don't hold it, it goes freely by itself. And that means really when we're not meditating, what happens is a big, hairy thought comes up and then we grab it. Come here, I want to talk to you. You're part of me. See, and that's not the right way. Really, because then it just makes it stronger. And we believe the story more. Part of us wants to let it go. But part of us is afraid that if we let it go, we won't have it anymore. Who will we be without this terrible problem? We will have nothing. Okay, maybe we'll have freedom, but we'll really have nothing. So this is really what is going on in meditation. We touch the story and we let it go. And we see that it's nothing inside. And really, this is a great way to walk around in your daily life. See which thoughts you hold on to and what you let go. So this method of seeing things as being dreamlike is just a way of being able to let it go. And if you think like this, and again and again, it begins to wear out the habit of seeing everything as real. This is a little bit about the meditation, contemplation and meditation. It's kind of like contemplation that gives way to meditation. Contemplation that becomes a meditation. That is the first ultimate bodhichita. We think about it with thoughts at first, and then when we understand, we let it go and just rest the mind. And then when we arise from the meditation, we try to carry that understanding through daily life. That is the meditation on ultimate bodhicitta. The second style of meditation is training in sending and taking. This is the meditation on relative bodhicitta. Many people have heard of this practice. It's called in Tibetan Tong Len. Tong means to send and Len means to take. And the slogan that trains this is just a single slogan. It says, train in taking and sending alternately. And the second half of the slogan is, put these on the breath. Many of you are already familiar with the technique of shamatha, or tranquility meditation, and Tonglen is based on this. In shamatha, or quiet sitting meditation, we sit with the body in a position of ease. The spine is straight, the spine is straight, and the body is balanced with the hands either in the lap or on the legs. The chin is tucked in slightly and the eyes are cast downward. The tip of the tongue touches the upper palate behind the front teeth. So by building this posture from the legs to the seat and so forth, we place the body in a position of ease. Then in shamatha, we place our attention on the breath as it goes out and comes in. We don't focus hard. Yeah, we actually allow the attention to rest on the breath. We allow the attention to rest on the breath as it comes in and as it goes out. And this gives us a little bit of a leash to keep our attention on the breath. By placing our attention in this way, we can notice and let go of distraction. And Tonglen is somewhat similar. Only in Tonglen we use our imagination. In fact, some people like to close their eyes when they do Tonglen, because that makes it easy to use your imagination. We're using our imagination to train our intention to be of benefit to others. And we do that by imagining someone we love. We imagine that someone we love is sitting in front of us, facing us. And we take a few moments to intellectually contemplate their qualities and our gratitude to them. We think, oh, this person has been so kind to me, I feel so grateful. That's training the mind in love. Then we think about the person's suffering. And we think about all the problems they have. We feel compassion for them. And then when we begin to feel this strongly, we may wish to take their suffering away. So in this way, the first part of Tonglen is a form of contemplation. We think about the loved one and think about their qualities and train in love. And then we think about their suffering and develop the wish to remove their suffering. When this wish is strong, we begin the practice of Tonglen. With the out-breath, we think, may you be happy. When we breathe in, we think, may you be free of suffering. Then slowly we can expand the group for whom we are meditating. Our session may begin with one person, but then we'll expand it to include all of our loved ones. After we've meditated for our first loved one for a while, then we'll say, others are just like this. I wish for them all to be happy. And then we expand the group to include our other loved ones. And we've all watched the old movies where the hillsides are full of people. Well, here our whole world is slowly becoming full of people and beings, animals, and everything. And then eventually we think of all of the beings in the universe as being there right in front of us. We breathe out and think, may you all have happiness. We breathe in and think, may you all be free from suffering. At the conclusion of the practice, we let go of the visualization and rest the mind. And after resting the mind, we dedicate the merit. I call this one cycle of Tonglen. It's a cycle because it begins with one and then ends with everyone. And then concludes with letting go of the visualization and resting the mind. And then if you have time, you can do another cycle. Perhaps starting with a different person and still working out to include all sentient beings. When Kimball Carther teaches this, he says, always start with one and end with all. And then let go of the visualization and rest your mind. And then dedicate the merit. Now this is how Tonglen begins, with this intention. You're training your intention, the out-breath to benefit and the in-breath to remove suffering. And so you're training the intention on the out-breath, may all beings be happy. And on the in-breath, you're training your intention, may all beings be free from suffering. Then after a while, you might get a little stronger. And you might be able to train your intention even further. When you breathe out, you may think, you can then say, may I give my happiness to all sentient beings. And then when you breathe in, you think, may I take on the sufferings of all sentient beings. This is really a powerful practice. It's powerful because it allows us to slowly dissolve selfishness. At first, we just are simple and say, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free from suffering. But slowly, as we train, we say, may I give my happiness to others and may I remove their suffering. You know how selfishness is. It really wants the opposite. It wants to be happy and doesn't care about others. So that's why we have to train it. So this is a little bit about the practice of Tonglen. We only have a few minutes before the break. There's not enough time to do a guided meditation on Tonglen right now, but we'll start the afternoon session with that. For now, we have a few minutes for question and answer. So if anybody has any questions about what they've heard so far, I know it was a lot, so if you have any questions, you can ask them. Yeah, this is actually very easily addressed by understanding ultimate bodhichita. Because if we have done the first meditation, the contemplation meditation on ultimate bodhicitta, we will see that the self-concept has no solidity. If we see and understand that mind is no thing, then there's nothing for the negativity to stick to. It's the difference between Velcro and Teflon. Yeah, because Velcro is a loop that's connected to a hook, and that's what makes it stick. If we have a strong self-concept, we will have a strong other concept. So we have the hook right out there for the loop to connect to. So if we conceive that we are solid and real and that everything out there is solid and real, we will be afraid. If we have a strong self-concept, we will have a strong other concept. One way to address this problem is to begin by briefly contemplating the limitless nature of mind. For example, you begin your session of meditation with refuge. You place yourself under the protection of the Buddha. You begin by contemplating the Guru above your head and receive the blessing. And you pray that the Guru blesses you so that you can practice bodhicitta. Then you do the brief meditation on the limitless nature of mind. Mind has no color, shape, or location. It has no beginning and no end. There is nothing for anything to stick to. It's not exactly Teflon, but you get the idea. But you really shouldn't think that the negativity slides off you. It's more like there's just nothing for it to stick to in you. And this also can be resolved by starting only with the idea of Tonglen instead of actually taking on the suffering of others. On the out-breath, think, may all beings be happy. On the in-breath, think, may all beings be free of suffering. And that's a very simple intention. And then slowly, as the person becomes stronger, then they can actually put more of themselves into it. Because if you understand that your mind is limitless, that means it has a limitless capacity to give and a limitless capacity to accept. Your mind is limitless in its ability to give. There's no end to your mind's openness and emptiness. It's a limitless ability to. It has a limitless supply, I guess, of goodness, I guess is one way to say. And because there's really no limitation to it. So then you can give and give again and again, and nothing disappears, nothing goes away. And since mind is limitless, there is nothing for the negativity to stick to. It's got a limitless ability to accept. It's only when we have the limited idea that we become afraid. His Eminence Taisiji Rinpoche says, our mind is the biggest thing. But by not recognizing its nature, we turn it into the smallest thing. Self-clinging. I use the example of a box. It's like we're all walking around in a box. We have these limitations of who we think we are. And then naturally when we see others, they're also wearing a box. This is where conflict comes from. We keep bumping up against their ideas. But the meditation on ultimate bodhicitta is about letting go of that idea. Our mind is limitless and unborn. It was never created by anyone. It has always existed, and it will never go out of existence. It's always been pure, never been stained, not for a moment. It's only because we lack recognition of it that we think of it as being limited and small. For some people, this is a difficult idea to grasp. So there's another technique. Many people like the meditation on Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion. For this meditation, one imagines that one's body, speech, and mind become the body, speech, and mind of Chenrezig. We become made of light, not solid. Trungpa Rinpoche says you can practice Tonglen like this. In his book on the 7 points of mind training, he says one way to overcome this problem is to meditate on Tonglen while one is visualizing oneself as Chenrezig. You begin the meditation by thinking of yourself as being Chenrezi, made of light and empty. As you breathe in the suffering of others, it makes your color brighter. And as you breathe out your goodness to others, it doesn't diminish your light. And this is a way to symbolically practice this emptiness. So I hope this is addressed. There's three different ways then to address the problem. One is by using intention, one is by understanding emptiness, and the third is by visualizing Chenrezi. Okay, so yeah, there's time for one more question. Yeah, this is actually the next section. Yeah, so I'll give you introduction now and then more later. Okay, the introduction is by giving the slogan. The slogan goes: 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 seeds of virtue. Normally, the 3 objects are things we like, things we dislike, and things we are indifferent toward. And the 3 poisons are attachment for the things we like, aversion for things we don't like, and bewilderment for everything else. So the teaching then is to recognize these mind states as they arise. And then when you see those mind states arising of the 3 poisons, you engage them. This takes a little practice. When we're doing quiet sitting meditation, slowly we can see our thoughts one by one. Everybody's had this experience of knowing that they're beginning to feel angry, but maybe not being able to stop it. Shamatha is good because it lets you know what's on your mind all the time. But it's unfortunate because you know what's on your mind all the time. And then you have to take responsibility for how you feel. But the good news is that with this technique, we can actually engage how we feel in a different way. Usually, when we feel something, we want to react. And often our reaction comes out of selfishness and confusion. And frequently what we do doesn't help the situation. For example, if someone says really negative words to us, we want to say negative words right back without thinking about what that will do. So what we do usually when we feel something is we run away to one of 2 extremes. If we're feeling angry, for example, we usually don't like how that feels. So we run away. We either blindly express the emotion or blindly suppress the emotion. And both of these make self-clinging stronger. Blindly expressing the emotion doesn't really help, it just gives it to somebody else. We haven't confronted how we feel. We might feel a momentary release, but what we've really done is made stronger the habit of yelling. And if we blindly suppress the emotion, we pretend we don't have it. And that dishonesty also strengthens self-clinging. It's like we're putting our emotions under pressure. And you know, pressure usually makes things explode. But the practice of Tonglen goes right down the middle. When we feel something, we engage it and say, I am feeling angry. Or if someone is coming at us with angry words, we say, I am feeling afraid. But then we have to go one more step. We have to recognize that that person is not our problem. Our angry reaction is our problem. Our fearful reaction is our problem. So how we engage this emotion is by the practice of turning it into an aspiration. Jamgon Khantrul explains this in the book. He says when you begin to feel angry or afraid, you think, may my anger contain the anger of all sentient beings. By my experiencing this moment of anger, may all beings be free of it. And may we all become Buddhas, the complete freedom from anger. And when we feel fearful, we think, may my fear contain the fear of all sentient beings. By my suffering through this moment of fear, may we all be free of it. And may we all become Buddhas, the complete freedom from fear. What keeps emotions going is habit. Mindfulness allows us to stop the wheel from turning. Otherwise, we spin into a story. We think something terrible is happening. It's a problem, it's a tragedy. And that only makes our suffering worse. But if we take hold of the emotion and use it for the benefit of beings, we can stop the spinning of the wheel and turn it into an aspiration. So when people come at us with angry words, the biggest danger is not what they are saying to us. because in reality their mouths are moving and sound is traveling through space. Our selfishness hears it and says, that's an insult. And then our selfishness says, I must be angry in return. Now, if there's genuine danger, we have to get out of there. Like if the person is going to hit us or harm us, we have to go and get out of there, because it would be bad karma to allow them to hurt us. You know what I mean? We're encouraging their bad karma. And so we might only be able to practice when we are safely at home. But you can do this even with things that happened in the past. You can remember the situation and practice now. I'll talk more about this after, but this is a beginning. This practice of the 3 objects and 3 poisons is incredibly powerful because it allows us to change how we're feeling. Just as in shamatha, when that big, ugly, hairy thought comes and we let it go, and we see that it is nothing in itself. Here, we take how we are feeling and transform that energy into aspiration for Buddhahood. And we can do that with pain and suffering as well. In French, the title of this book is The Alchemy of Suffering, because through this practice of applying bodhichita, we can turn suffering into joy. All right, maybe not joy, but at least not suffering. Okay, so that's where we'll stop for now. But I really appreciate this question, because this is really what our challenge is to take this out of the book and put it in our life. And this is the slogan that saved my life. Okay, yeah, I ran over a little, sorry. Yeah, so do you dedicate?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's my next question.
Tam je zepan.